Now? Okay.
It looked like now it's working, yeah.
It's not
Okay.
working?
It's working.
No, it's
Oh, yeah.
working. It's working. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Today we are going to discuss about the AICP exam, how to getting ready for the exam, and yeah, we have two guest speakers to get their insight strategies for getting ready for the exam. First speaker, Golin Jones, second year Master of Urban Planning student, and Golin bring a diverse background, strategic communication, landscape design, and entrepreneurship. She has studied sustainable city planning in Copenhagen and has worked in various cities across the US, from Los Angeles to Houston and beyond. Her passing lies is housing and transportation planning, and her experience with mobility disability gives her unique perspective on urban accessibility and equity. She aspired to working in government, regional planning, or private sector after completing her degree. Our second guest is Dr. Train, who hold both the Master of Urban Planning and the PhD Urban and Regional Science from Texas A&M. He's an Aggie. Tros recently achieved AICP certification and currently serve as a senior regional planner in Hampton Roads, Virginia, with a strong background in private sector planning and policy analysis. He focused on developing strategic, inclusive, and sustainable planning solutions that enhance regional growth and community well-being. Okay, so our guest will be sharing their first-hand experience with AICP exam, including why take the AICP exam, what are the benefits does it offer our career growth, how they prepare for exam, what are the strategies and the materials work for getting ready for exam, and what was the application process like, how to apply for the AICP exam, and what are the expected date to ready for the exam, insight on the AICP candidates program and how it helped to early career planners, and what are the final recommendation for the considering the getting ready for the exam. Okay, we will begin with few questions for Guan and Pro, and then open for the audience for question. And so if you have any question need to ask, feel free to drop in chat box. We can answer this question.
Okay. I have just a quick slideshow, so I'll go over that, and then you can ask questions after that. So,
Oh,
and then
all right. Okay.
let's see. Where did I go? Ooh.
First, can you go on? Can you introduce yourself about a bit about your background?
Well, you did a very good job. I appreciate it.
Okay.
But let's see. Where is from beginning? Okay. Yeah, just, I'm a second year student. I'm just here because uh you forced me to be here because you're very persuasive. But I just recently took the AICP exam last fall, and I'm just gonna, I don't have any real deep insights or anything, but I'll just give you some real quick tips, just to hopefully keep you from being too nervous. So, first of all, just let you know, it's a broad exam. It covers everything from planning history to zoning codes and ethics, and it's very normal to feel overwhelmed. Everything in the test is divided into, I believe, 6 different sections. However, every test is different. So the percentage of questions you get in, say, ethics might be different from somebody else's percentage that they get in ethics. So you do have to study all of it. You can't just say, I'm going to concentrate on one area. So yeah, the format is multiple choice. They're usually scenario-based questions, and the main categories are planning, fundamental planning, plan implementation, the functional areas of practicing, like housing and transportation, spatial thinking, so maps and GIS, ethics and professional um, codes, and yeah, those are the main sections. Um, the time, let's see, I got this in my way. You can't see here. Uh, yeah, so it is a time test. I believe it's 3 hours and 15 minutes, something like that. Um, and so it's best, just like any other type of multiple choice test, not to spend too much time on something that you don't get right away. Come back to it if you can. Although it is kind of hard because there's 175 questions, so trying to remember what question you need to go back to is kind of hard. But I believe it will not let you complete the test unless it'll remind you that you haven't answered all of the questions. So the other thing you want to do is to build a study plan, have a realistic timeline. Most people study for about 2 to 3 months, a minimum of about 100 hours. You want to use multiple sources. So you want to take Quizlets and study stacks, and you want to hang out with other people that are studying for the test. You want to get a broad background on how to process the information for you. Uh, One of my sources was listening to Dr. Garcia's podcast that she posted. It is uh, good to listen to on a long drive. Uh, when you're driving, if you just gotta listen to it over and over again, it'll get you a lot of the finer points that you studied in class that you may have forgotten about. But the APA also has a study guide, um, and you can use flashcards, whatever method of study works for you. I mean, if you've gotten to this point as a master's student, then you know how you study, how you learn best and retain information. So build on that, and that would be my best advice to you on how to study for this. Um, Again, everything is important, but you want to focus on ethics. It's very huge. It's very important. It's very important to the organization that they have members that respect ethics. Um, but beyond specific situations, ethics is really you know what's right, and you know how to do the right thing. So if you approach all those things from that aspect, you can pretty much narrow it down to one or two answers on one of those questions. But know what the ethics are, and commit to those, and you should be fine. Um, History, history is history, just like any other history that you've studied over time. American history, state history. There's people, uh, the movers and shakers in the industry. Just know who they are, know what they did. The names that you keep hearing over and over again are the names that you will see on the test. Um, uh, Also, zoning and law is important because that is what we are, going out into the world and focusing on, changing zoning and trying to get things fixed, so to speak. So that's a very important part of the test. And then, of course, the functional things with housing and transportation. Court cases, my favorite ones. Yeah, that one is a tough one. I tried to break it down into First, Fifth, and 14th Amendment cases when I started. And then, you realize some of them don't always fit into one category. Some of them are in two categories. But, for instance, this one here with the NAACP in South Burlington County, there are two cases. One was in 75 and one was in 83. And so you kind of have to know the difference. Um, I highlighted the constructed energy in Sonoma County versus Petaluma because I had never heard of that before. And I'm like, well, who cares about one city, state's little that's just out there, but it's in there. So study all of them, try to categorize them as best you can for yourself. what they mean in terms of law. Of course, the first 14th, first, fifth, and 14th are always key ways to put them in an order. And then lastly, practice, practice, practice. Take as many practice tests as you can. There are lots of full-length tests with practice questions, so you can do it for time, so you know how you work in that time period. Take 2, 3, 4 of those if you have time to do it. And then understand why you got something wrong. For me, it was misreading the question or just not taking the time to think through that question, thinking, oh, I know that right quick. So slow down and look at it. I recommend getting in touch with Richard Lukey. He's up in up near Dallas in Texas. I want to say, I think of the city. But you will see him at all of our APA organizational events. He's real big on trying to get people to pass the exam. He has a 3-hour part 1 class that's free, and he has a 2-hour part 2 that you have to pay and go to, but it offers a lot of test taking advantages and information. I went to that this past summer. He was up in Arlington, but he travels around the state, and he owes us a view here. A visit here in College Station because he hasn't been here in a while to give one of his workshops. So that, and also I recommend the Florida. I meant to write. I wrote it in one of my slides back there, but the Florida Gold Coast chapter, Teacher Coast chapter, has a really good program that he's been doing for many, many years. It's a 3-hour session every Thursday night for, I believe, like 6 or 7 weeks. And they go over the test and, try to get you some of the pitfalls. And it's very helpful as well. So that's pretty much all I got. Oh, exam day. Okay. Rest, eat, make sure all those things. Use the process of eliminations on your answers. Stay calm. If you don't know, yes, and move on. And budget your time wisely. I will tell you, if you ask about my exam day, it was not a good, it was a very auspicious start, as I say, to my day. And I really did not think I would get through that, but I did. And I don't know. Anyway, so remember, the exam doesn't define you. There are pretty great planners that haven't passed the test on the first try. If you fail, reassess it, try again. Of course, being an AICP is valuable, but your experience matters more. Certification is great, but what you do is what really counts. And just stay engaged with the APA and your local community, wherever you live or decide or land, and don't stop learning. So.
All right. Thank you so much for nice presentation. You arranged everything very nicely. Thank you so much. And right now we are talk about Dr. Trey. Did you also experience in the candidates program, and did you already have 2 years and professional experience and required to taking the exam? So let's talk about the experience is the Dr. Train for AICP exam. Welcome to our session.
Thank you so much, Windia.
Anything introduce yourself except I introduce yours.
I think you did a really good job in introducing myself. So I just briefly talk to everybody that haven't heard about me yet. So I just share with Windia and Wendelin that I spent so many years in the 3rd floor of LA, the Lamford building, and missing the heat of Texas. So I believe as a Master of Urban Planning student, you are in a pretty good shape, a good foundation, getting out. And I think AICP definitely gonna leverage not only your experience, but your academic foundation to the next level. And one of my experience is about the AICP exam. First of all, I haven't intended to take it, but switching from academia to the professional kind of industry, I find out that more and more job now, they put AICP at the prefer, not required, but prefer, even with the entry level job. So of course, with the senior position, it sometimes the company is required. But I see more and more company organization prefer the candidate to have AICP. So I think giving that would be give you your advantages in terms of chance to get into the interview or pass the application round. So I think that's a good start, at least like
It's a credit. It's a
re
plus.
reality check. So yeah, and I think Gwendolyn did a really good job in summary the AICP exam, the process, the content. Um, from my experience, I agree that somebody say the AICP is like the mile long topic, but sometimes it's only an inch deep, meaning that it's asked you everything everywhere. But sometimes you only need to know very basic information or basic knowledge about certain topic. You don't have to like dig really deep into that thing. But the thing is they ask so many things in so many topics, so that requires you to prepare a lot. So let me share with you a really quick kind of screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
So this
Yes.
is just more like describe what Gwendolyn already mentioned about the structure of the AICP exam. So this is all coming out from the official material of the test. So they divide very clearly about the detail of the test, how many percent of the question it's gonna be. So looking at the different percent of the question of the type, you can see how you should invest time on different topic. For example, here research and assess method is going to be around 11%, fundamental planning knowledge is 15%, communication and interaction 13%, code of ethics 10%. This is the always like you should not lose any point of this one because it's gonna keep asking you in every test. So whether or not you want it or not, but it's gonna come up. Another thing like planning and policy development, 15% of the question. Planning implementation also have there. Administration and management, 6%. This seems small amount of percent of question, but the way the question is designed, I don't know about the Gwendolyn experience, but in my case, because the question is always like scenario type of question, you are like, for example, like you are a planning manager of City of College Station. You have to deal with this situation where the developer coming in and there are conflict of interest, something like that. Sometimes it's very difficult to me to like get the point of the question because the way it structure the question. So it not like yes, no, or it's always multiple choice, but it's in order to get the notion of the question, you have to understand the situation and different stakeholder involved in that kind of process, especially related to this group of question. And of course, leadership is always a part of that. Another is area of practice. This is where, housing, transportation, hazard management, environmental, all things of different aspect in planning gonna be asked in this kind of area. So for me personally, from my experience, I got a little of kind of failure at first time I tried. I didn't take a test, but coming out of the program, I used to teach urban issue class. I don't know what code is that. It used to be URPN 201 for undergrad students. So I'm quite confident in my knowledge about planning theory and planning history and stuff. And I thought, okay, look like AICP is not that difficult. Probably I already have very good grasp of knowledge about urban planning and then I try a test, looking at the previous test that people take and they give comment. And I realized that I could not even understand what they are talking about, almost like 40% of the question. And then I realized, okay, I have to pause that first time I planned to try to take a test in November. And then I said, no, it's not going to work. I need to seriously restructure my study plan. So that's where I go into and then really like divided it down on what, question are they gonna ask, what group of question or something like that. And I also, like Gwendolyn say, I did attend an online class from, I think his name is Henry Britticker. I'm not
Yes.
sure about his last name, but Henry is his first. APA Florida chapter. It's online class at the weekend, 3 hours Saturday or Sunday. Is really helpful and for sure. And they said that the pass score. I mean the pass percentage of this test is around 60%, telling you that it's not an easy, but it's. I mean it telling you that not everybody take a test gonna pass and so it's just to warning you that we need to have a good preparation for the test. And they said you need to study at least 100 hours. But in my case, pretty sure the second time around that I try, I have to put at least 150 hour on the preparing the test because I feel like after laying out the map here, all the question, I feel out that I still have a lot of gap that I need to fill in order to understand the test as well as giving my confidence in going to the test. And one of my key advice that um, trying to find out a previous test experience. So people put that online a lot. You can see a list of different type of test questions that they experience. And if you look through the list, 100, 200 questions, and you realize, or at least you understand what they're asking, almost all of them. I'm not talking about like know the answer, just understanding the question, what they are asking, then I think you kind of in a good position to take the test. Don't like me. I mean, the first time I planned to take a test, I could not understand like half of those, even though like, I feel very confident at that time. So all right, that's my initial experience with the AICP exam and the test. And you asked a little bit about the candidate. So one thing about the AICP is like you have 2 times per year to take a test, right? Either April or November, I'm not sure, but like 2 times. And after that, if you pass the test, you will be designated as AICP candidate. I'm sure that Gwendolyn is now at that stage. And when you are a candidate, you need to submit the called assessment, experience assessment. Basically, it's just, for urban planning work or something like that. And after they approve that, you will be designated as an AICP. So
after candidates, we need to wait him for 2 years experience.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that changed recently. Before that, they require you to have at least 2 years before you take the test. But now
Okay.
you can take the test immediately, anytime, even before you got enough experience. So passing the test, get an AICP candidate could be a really advantageous for your resume or CV to go out and get job or promotion or something like that. So
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, yeah.
No, I just had a question, yeah, for Tran, because when you were like a PhD student at the time that you were doing that, right? Like that you
oh
were.
no, I already graduate and I already work in the industry, and then I decided to
Okay.
take the test. So yeah,
Okay, so you already had the experience, but then you took the test as a PhD student.
when I already had my PhD.
Oh, when you already had your
Yeah,
PhD.
yeah.
Got it.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, great.
Mhm.
Wendy, I don't know if you had any other questions.
So about the scenario question, is a very hard part of this exam. Scenario question is different. You explain
Still
different
experience
sectors.
Gwendolyn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you asking? I was gonna say when you mentioned the scenario, it's kind of hard to tell the scenario questions from the ethics questions
Mm.
because they're kind of asking those kind of type of situational type of
Right.
things. But yeah, I think a lot of the management and scenario, you get that. That would be Justin's class on budgeting and budget implementation. A lot
Mhm.
of the things in that particular course answer those questions. You know, what do you do with the money? You know, how do you
Yeah,
deal with the money? Is very important.
yeah, yeah. Financial planning sure is new to me, so and it come up several times in my tests, and yeah.
Is a financial and budget and things, the grant
Yes.
and yes. Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Is
Uh-huh.
is is
Yeah.
a is a new part of this exam, or is introduced?
I think it
No.
fall into the area of practice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One of the
All right.
other things is, you know, everybody has a concentration. It could be transportation, housing, hazards. You know, don't forget things like historic preservation. So you
Right.
could get asked questions on that. So you need to kind of be aware of historic preservation issues as well, because we don't focus too much on that unless that's your area of concentration.
That's a good advice. I agree. Yeah. We tend to, lean into the thing that we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And they're gonna ask the thing outside of our expertise for sure. Yeah, so spend more time on the area that we not familiar with. That would be a very good strategy.
Okay. So exam is changing the time to time, or the changing the basically the exam is two times, spring and fall. So
Mhm.
exam, the content is changing every time, or no?
The content doesn't change, the questions change because you don't
Uh,
want to have the same exact test. So
Right.
whoever the test gods, you know, they try to you know, mix up a little bit so you don't. In other words, you don't want me to repeat verbatim what I took to somebody else because that, you know, that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like a bank of questions, right? And then they always testing questions. So even if you have like 170 questions, only 150 count. The other ones are being tested for the next round.
Yeah.
And they have like a committee of like people that they just ask to come up with the questions. So
Yeah.
basically they meet, come up with the questions, and then they have to be like backed up. So you need like at least 3 references from each one of them. And then so they really, the big time that they rehaul the whole exam was when they make the pilot program. And this was like in 2016, I believe. So this is when they said students need to be able to pass this exam. This is why you have the IICP candidate, right?
Mhm.
So it should be, there's like definitely things like that are helpful to know when you're in the job, but they basically haul the whole thing. So it's like a student in taking classes right now should be able to pass it. And after that, they just kind of have kept with the same kind of methodology. So a lot of less of kind of raw memorization, maybe more escenarios and application. That's kind of like what they're trying to do also. And they
Mhm.
incorporated, more things. Because like in planning, there's like sometimes, health becomes important. Or like now I imagine that there will be questions about AI, AI ethics
Oh
or
yeah,
stuff like that. So
for
they just,
sure gonna come. So yeah.
they try to be moving with the times basically. So a lot of things by the time that we planning was thinking a lot about like equity and inclusion or whatever, it's like that's how they might include different things in the exam.
I would say that I didn't have any AI questions that I recall in November. So we haven't got there yet, but I will say that I would recommend you taking it as a student or as soon as you graduate. Every person in the part 2 class that I took, I was in Arlington. I believe there was probably maybe 30, 35 people there.
Mhm.
And out of those 35 people, I was the only student. Everybody else was already in practice. And I think
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
difficult when you're in practice, you know, maybe not in an academic situation, but you're actually out there practicing to come back and take one of these tests because you now have real world scenarios that are not textbook. And you might try to apply a situation the way you dealt with it in the real world to the test, and that might not be the way you should answer that. So I think it's a little harder when you're a seasoned professional to try to take this test or try to study for this test than
Yeah,
you are when you're kind of a fresh faced student.
I agree. Yeah, I think that if you can arrange your, I know it's with master students, it's going to be a lot of work, school work, and at the same time you'll have to prepare for job application and all the thing. But like Gwendolyn said, your memory is still fresh. You just recently exposed to different theory, practice, and knowledge about urban planning. I took the test when I go and work for almost 2 years, and it's hard because basically you only have spent night time or weekend, and you work 9 to 5, and then after you go home and eating, you just want to go to sleep. You don't want to open the book and study. It take a lot of time and encouragement if you have to like do in that route. But yeah, I would say and would encourage that if master student are able to take a test, it's going to be ideal to me. Yeah. And right now, AICP, like I say, they open that you can take and pass the test and become candidate. And when you go to work, you collect enough experience, and then you submit the assessment paper, and then you become a AICP. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
gonna
good.
be a smoother route, I guess.
Okay. So, any question, Faith? You want to ask something? Any question? Oh, no. So, yes. Think. What is a final recommendation you both recommend to get ready for the exam?
So many recommendations. I don't know where to start.
But
Probably, go to IPA website, get yourself familiar with the stat structure. I think that that's gonna be the key because uh, background or the area that you think that you still missing or not have covered yet. So I think that could be a good start. So.
And I would
And when you
say,
plan a little backward because you have timeline very clearly, right? The test window only open in, let's say, April and November, and you have at least 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, depend on how busy you are to prepare the test. So work backward to make sure that you have enough time
okay.
to prepare. So yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if it's April or May. If it's May, I think you sign up in April, and I think the test is in May. Um, but if it is in May, then even though you're worried about graduation, what have you, if you take the test at the end of May,
Mm,
if you've been working up to it, if you take it toward the end of the month, then you can say you got that done and you graduated in the same month. But
mm,
again, if you don't do it in May, do it in November, when all of the stuff is still kind of fresh, because
mm,
it just makes it a lot easier. And I would say also read the bulletins from APA that they put out. Just read and go through them so kind of know what's on their mind. So
yeah,
that helps to know what the test is going to be about, I think.
yeah. That's a good point. I start subscribe for their bulletin and news, after my first kind of fail initial tries, and then I start receiving those bulletins to at least to read and familiar myself with the training with different kind of topic in urban planning, and yeah, it at least provide a little background on those issue.
The other thing is, I said I was going to read all the great books. I didn't get around to reading them all, but you should know all the great books, at least what they're about. And because I found really a lot of question about so and so's work on such and such, is like, yeah, okay, I'm briefly familiar with that. But all the big guys are going to be mentioned. Howard Burnham and all that. Um, I would also say know your women, okay? Because there's few women, and I think the bias is to make sure you feature questions about the women that contribute to planning. So
Yeah.
know who they are and what they did, and keep those at top of mind as well.
I agree. Yeah. To me, the most part I found difficult is about the law case. Not only it complicated, but it's sometimes it like when Elin say one case, but it can relate it to two different one story, but can relate it to two different case. And my recommendation is you don't have to learn every case, but if you learn, make sure you totally understand the story behind the case, why the court make a decision on that. My strategy is I rather know less case, but if they ask, I'm sure I know how to answer rather than I try to like read as many cases as possible, and then at the end I'm gonna fall into the trap of like, kind of sound familiar, but I'm not sure what it is, and that'll be very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. You can always eliminate, right? It's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that Wendy asked like, any last recommendations, but I wanted to hear maybe recommendations for the program. So some of the things, unfortunately not for the second year students, which are like the majority here, but like for example, Janatul, that was in the first year. Something I've been doing is like incorporating in the planning history and theory class, just like exams. I did share those with the second year students, and then doing things like this to kind of like hear from other people that have taken the exam. I try to do accountability groups, but I don't think that really works in terms of like, you're
Yeah.
gonna take it and just like meet with your buddies and all that. We do have, instead of just doing your professional paper, you could choose to do a comprehensive exam. And it's like that was made in order to encourage students to take the exam. Only a few schools allowed to do that. And a part of that is like because the APA does want to encourage people, also the planning accreditation board, but not enough students are taking the AICP. However, nobody has taken advantage of that that I know of. So I should not say because I don't have all the history. I only have been here. It's gonna be 2 years now. So I was wondering, besides, again, I did send some of these like Florida chapter, just things that they have and other things. Is there anything else that you would recommend in terms of the program in order to encourage students to take the ISCP? And that obviously might be related to anything at all, right? But I'm just wondering from that perspective, what can we do?
Well, I think you know more than you think you know, first of all. If it wasn't so expensive, I would say, just take it just go for it. And I had kind of got it to that point because I hadn't put in the hours that I had intended to study for it. I'm just like, okay, well, I think I waited to the last minute to pay for it, and I was like, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take this test, and I'll do better, next year when I take it again. I'll miss that money, but I really think you do know more than you think you know, and you should give yourself credit. You put in the time, do that, but don't chicken out because you think that you don't know anything. You do.
So that is really good advice, and from my experience, I think first of all, the student probably should take advantages of become IPA member because it's really cheap when you're a student and I think
Yeah,
like
it's
25.
free. It's free. It's
Oh, it's
free.
free?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Then there's no reason that you should not be a IPA member. And then, when you're a IPA member and you should, at least follow their social media or whatever website to at least understand what is currently happening in the industry or with APA. So you got them kind of up to date things happen in the industry. And the other thing that I think maybe the program can do a little more but I know it's very difficult because it's AICP test is so wide in terms of the content, and our program is, I think, it's tend to develop more like a focus area, right? If you transportation, you just should take certain class to go really deep into that kind of thing. And it's same when I was there. I'm really into housing and community development, and all the class that I took is just related to those. When I see my friend talk about transportation, I probably have no idea what are they talking about because sometimes it's pretty technical. So I think, especially for the first year student, maybe more kind of introductory class that expose student to variety of range in terms of urban planning professional, career choice probably could be a good thing, and always integrate with the APA material or information in those classes. Going to be very, very helpful for first year early master student. So they know that if you want to go into this industry, you have to kind of first mentally prepare yourself to do certain type of work, and secondly, that if you want to pass the AICP exam, you have to get a good preparation for the test itself. Then, yeah.
yeah, I mean, some of the things I think that might be good is like more integration with different classes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like just like in each class we can have something going on. Obviously that requires, a lot of
And I
coordination
think,
with
yeah,
other
one more thing when
faculty.
you mentioned that bringing the speaker from outside, where they work in the professional field, transportation, housing, hazard mitigation, and all different field, going to bring a really good real life viewpoint to our student, and I think it's going to be really helpful. Yeah.
Well, great.
Well, good luck for everybody if they plan to take the test. So it's going to be rewarded when you get to pass it. So
Yeah. I think our first years are getting ready for the exam because they're covering all the subject area. Planning, history and theory and law is good for them. And yes. Right. Any question from Jennifer? She's a first year student.
Yes, I have a question. Okay, it's good to take the exam in first year or second year?
I would say that you're talking about you're a first year master student, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say your second year, just because you've taken more classes and you can focus more on the different subject areas that we were talking about earlier. So yeah,
And when you did it
Thank
in
you.
November, right? On your second year, November.
correct. Yes.
Yeah. So you can shoot for that, Gemma, too. So you could,
Yeah.
and the registration is a month before, so it was going to be in October. And
Right.
then you can study the summer, right? You do your internship and study in the summer, keep studying. And I think that it's better because right now it's like you will take the exam. The window is, I think it's May, but you register on April. So it's okay, but you will finish your professional paper, so you'll probably be very stressed out with everything,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a possibility because the thing is that you're going to already be looking for jobs. So if you are looking for jobs, if you know, like when right now, like she can just put already like she's AICP candidate, and she can do it really early as well.
Yeah.
So I think that will help her.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my advice is, like everybody mentioned, you know, you know the timeline, and you work backward to your study plan. You know how many months you need to prepare in order to take a test in November, and I would say at least 1 or 2 months before that, search for like previous year kind of question, and then read through those and see if you can recognize almost all of them. I think that's a good indicator of how ready you are for the test. So for my case, I mentioned earlier that for my first time, I haven't recognized almost half of the questions, so I have to pause my plan to take a test and then postpone for half a year to get a better preparation. So that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also, like I said, you have that summer before your second year. So you know, you're doing your internship, do your internship that summer. When you start your classes in the fall, you know, look at that subject matter that you're studying. So by the time you take your test in November, you know, you've already gone through that coursework as well. You know what it's about, and you should have a lot of confidence, you know, by your third semester anyway. So that it you're good. You should be motivated, and if you're motivated like right now, you know you want to do it. I think that you can do it, and I think you can pass it in November of your in your third semester with no problem.
Really. Thank you.
Sure. Good luck.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Tran, Gwen, and also Windia, because Windia organized this and set up the room and the flyer, asked all the questions. So this was great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Dr.
much.
Garcia. Thank you, Windia, and
Yeah,
everybody.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a happy
Thank
happy
you again.
Valentine.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Happy
Yes.
Oh, by the
Valentine's
way, I
Day.
think my organization have some position is opening. So just in case if anybody work in housing and transportation, you should check it out. So
All right. Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
yeah,
so
let me
much
yes.
put
information.
Oh, perfect. Yes, we'll post that.
the link there. So if you have
Okay.
any question, I'm happy to answer. So
Yeah,
I
right
need
now
to
we are
bring more Aggie to Virginia.
we are looking for the full-time job and internship with our students. Okay. Thank you so much that information. Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Dr. Garcia, do you want to? I was going to ask her. Oh well. All right. I have a meeting with her at 2:00. Thank you, Winya. I appreciate it. You forcing me to do this.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, I came back because I thought that Gwen wanted like something, but that's okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.